Hello everyone. This is part two of a video that I wasn't intending to be drawn into two parts, but it ended up being a little too long for my phone to keep on one file, so there you go. In my last video, as I was explaining, one of the difficulties with borderline is that basically weather talk. And I referenced the subject of sports and how I developed some negative reinforcement as it pertains to that subject. And I was talking about how when I tried to do baseball, I'd swing the bat and hit a lot better if I swung it holding it down low near my hips like a sword versus up high over the shoulder. And people would, they would actually refuse to throw the ball, so I couldn't play. So the point of that is that, when people would bring up these sort of casual subjects, they really weren't so casual in my case. In my case, they were examples of ways in which the people around me failed to allow me to be as I was, failed to accept me as I was. It was the proof of abandonment I'd faced throughout my life that would aggravate my borderline personality disorder. And that ended up for me being I would end up dealing with that by talking a lot about nothing particular, but just making tons of jokes and dragging on an explanation or going into subjects that people couldn't follow or whatever, just because I knew that the more I talked, the less they could talk, and the less they talked, the safer I was. Because any one of those issues could have sparked episode or series of episodes from my borderline personality disorder, and so I just tried to drown that out as much as I could. Now, the other difficult thing as it pertains to dealing with borderline personality disorder is that because of the consuming nature of it, the way that I've talked about, you're just constantly on guard, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're on guard or whether you're for it or whether you're not. It hits you the same way, more or less. The only difference is that you can either develop the willpower to fight it, to get up at the end of the day and to try again, to keep trying to get better, or you can let it overcome you. And if you have the strength to fight it, then I have an insight for you. You are not the infant, or yeah, rather, you are the infant. The person you identify yourself as, the one watching that video, that's your disorder. It's been so consuming. Your personality, as defined by your disorder, has actually existed longer. You've matured more in that role than you have as an individual. So, in a sense, you are stunted. You never grew beyond that child who was injured that way. And a lot of the fear and anger and sadness and all those overwhelming emotions are essentially in the way that you sometimes confuse your own identity as the child and as the person who was watching that child, is that the disorder is sort of like a caregiver or a guardian. And when you realize this, when you stop making an enemy of it and you stop trying to cure it, you can actually approach that infant of yourself and in this mature form that you've taken. You realize that the anger and the fear and the depression and all these things are a result of trying to protect that infantile sense of self that still needs a lot of protecting and a lot of growth. And you can start to evolve from a guardian to a nurturer. I said that weird. Anyway, you can start to evolve to a nurturer and use your role, much like the role of a parent, to separate yourself from the child that you have now identified yourself as, your true self as. And use that sense of love, of goodness, caring, of deliberate decision not to abandon those as you were. You can use all these fine qualities to look after this child in a way that allows that child to grow in its own way. And you can do this by basically by establishing your borderline personality. You can separate that from all that you do and start to piece together, what is it that I enjoy that doesn't fit within that personality? And you can start to piece together a small semblance of a life. And who knows what you'll find. But this is how you begin to grow from that. And so I guess to kind of wrap up what I was saying in the last video, in this one, is to say those who suffer from borderline personality disorder are to a great extent suffering needlessly because they blame themselves for more than they should. They're not weak. They're strong. A lot of the times, they are very likely getting better when you feel like they're getting worse. Because in order for them to get better, they have to regress back to that infantile state in order to grow from it. They have to identify with it in order to be able to even get that far. And the dissociative disorder is the way in which we protect ourselves from that if we're not yet ready to face that. We're not ready to deal with that. If we don't have the support we know we need for it, to confront it. That's why it's so important. Before you start to tear down that wall, that you find some sort of a reliable support structure. And honestly, my advice is try your best to make a lot of money. Having a high-priced psychologist, it's not ideal, but they're probably about the closest thing that you're going to find. Because if you go to any other kind of psychologist, odds are at some point or another, for one reason or another, they're going to refer you off, or they're going to move on with their own lives. They cannot be a reliable companion to you as you require them to. You might be able to find strength in others with borderline personality, though historically speaking, many people with borderline personality disorder have trouble with other people who have borderline personality disorder, specifically because of the fact that if your breakdowns are triggered by feelings of abandonment and their breakdowns are triggered by feelings of abandonment, and you don't break down in a way that protects one another, and really there is no such way, you're going to constantly be triggering each other, and that doesn't really work that well either. In a group format, you can kind of work with trained professional to help alleviate some of that, but I honestly feel as though our current methods for dealing with borderline personality disorder are inadequate. It leaves too much room for suffering, too much exclusion, to greater possibilities. It's too inclusive to allow for proper education. It's overwhelming to learn about it. You're not going to be able to learn everything there is to know about it because it will be too difficult to learn it all and to understand it all in a way in which it transcends knowledge, becomes wisdom, or transcends experience, becomes wisdom. We're doing too little with too much, is basically what I'm trying to say. And At least if you have the money, you may be able to find a psychologist out there that, while they may not be able to provide you with all the building blocks that you might desire or require in order to become a whole person, one thing that they can provide is consistency. For as long as you can stay with them. Some people know more about this than others, and certainly make use of that where you can. Don't try to learn too much at one time, because learning about it can itself be a trigger. Try to be understanding. The psychological route. This isn't a condition that's going to get better right away. Not even with the best care. Can't be solved with simple medication. It's the way that our brains physically changed in order to cope with what's happened to us. And it will probably cause us to stand out for the rest of our life. Sadly, as the Chinese phrase goes, nail that stands out gets hammered. It's part of the reason why I went ahead and developed my approach. Was because we're in so many ways so capable. It seems a shame to try to become like everyone else. It should be enough that we are able to be ourselves and make use of those strengths and to be able to grow and enjoy our lives by ourselves is so desired, and it should be our goal, whether we seek to be alone in peace or whether we seek the companionship of another, that we should for nothing else, for no one else, for the sake of those that we're with, that we spend our time with, that we should become stronger for them, if that's your inclination. I've chosen to become stronger for myself because I have grown to acknowledge that I may never be good for anyone else. They may never be good for me. Too many of our assumptions are based on the way we see people as common, and some people are not common. Some people are extraordinary, and our unwillingness to try to learn from those extraordinary individuals, what sets them apart, has created a more or less immovable barrier in my case. And I don't resent that anymore. It's kind of freeing, actually, because it means I get to do whatever I want. I don't have to think about what I need to do in order to try to be something else for someone else, or what I should be because of what I've been told. I get to do what I feel like doing because I'm not trying to save the world anymore. It's very liberating, and the world is as peaceful as I allow it to be, as I make it out to be, and finding my own unique way through it. That is, to me, more fulfilling than trying to learn how to be one of other more ordinary people. And that was a very poor bunny ears thing I just did, but I'm kind of tired. It's first day off of a very tiring job, and I'm just rambling at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you all go right at this point. Um, I'll see you in the next video, whenever that is. Whenever I have an idea I want to pursue, if you have any recommendations, any thoughts or comments or whatever, feel free to go ahead and post them below. I don't get a lot of comments, so I'll probably end up responding to most of them. And do what makes you happy. Don't be afraid to pursue your own path. And hopefully this has been helpful to a few people. And if not, well, that makes my job that much easier. Feel like the greatest compliment or assurance I could receive at this point is to be told, nobody needs me. Because then I just don't have to try so hard. And I don't have to stay around any longer than I feel like. That's why I make these videos, and I hope that there'll be a few people out there who continue to move forward this way. And I know there are a few people out there that will support them. So tell all of those people, thank you. Keep doing good work. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.